So I want to ask you, as far as Ark's interest in Bitcoin goes, what got you guys? Obviously, you've been on the forefront of innovation in general for a long time. What got you interested in Bitcoin? What was kind of that timeline for you guys? And then aside from Bitcoin, the asset class, and maybe kind of want to give high level thesis on the asset class itself. What got you interested in on chain data itself, and kind of walk us through that process of how that began?
Sure. So Ark was actually the first public fund manager to gain exposure to Bitcoin through GBTC back in 2015. So at the time, Bitcoin was really trading only around $200. But the history of Ark's relationship with Bitcoin actually predates Ark. And specifically, so Kathy Wood, for those not familiar with Ark, maybe taking a step back, we're an asset management firm that focuses exclusively on disruptive innovation. So we thematically invest across, primarily the public equity space. So we have 5 major technology platforms: genomics, DNA sequencing, energy, robotics, automation, AI, and one of them being sort of crypto and blockchain broadly. And so prior to Kathy, our CEO and founders founding of Ark, she actually had a first initial brainstorm with our current director of research back when Bitcoin was trading at $11. But at the time, being at AllianceBernstein, there's obviously not the maturity to do anything about it. It was more of a, we invest in tech and we're sort of at the cutting edge. So that was identified quite early on. But fast forward, 2-3 years, and we published our first white paper in collaboration with Dr. Arthur Laffer, who's a supply side economist and one of Kathy's mentors. That was called Bitcoin: A Disruptive Currency. So actually looking at Bitcoin as more of a monetary revolution than a technological revolution. It was a pretty sort of basic framing of, could Bitcoin serve the 3 roles of money, and sizing what that opportunity looked like. So that was around 2015, and was really within the same time frame that we had gained our first exposure through GBTC. And then fast forward a few years, we published a second white paper called Bitcoin: Ringing the Bell for a New Asset Class, that kind of looked at Bitcoin in the context of traditional asset classes, and deemed it not just investable enough, but distinguished enough to merit sort of its own kind of framework for and separate from traditional asset classes. Which brings me to, I guess, the second part of your question of what's so fascinating about on-chain. It's like for us, while we're primarily focused on traditional equities, crypto being a kind of a distinct asset class that has an entirely new framework by which to analyze its fundamentals is really kind of interesting as a sort of shift in paradigm from what we've seen in traditional equities. So the ability to have like this 24/7 global fact sheet that any individual can access at any time, that gives us extremely granular breakdown of the inner economics and network activity, is a really like kind of, I'd say, compelling and new way to analyze an asset's fundamentals. So we're looking at it more from that standpoint of, think the first phase of institutions understanding Bitcoin was like, what is this? Is this really just like this sort of Ponzi scheme for drug lords and criminals? I think we've gotten past that, and now it's okay. I get Bitcoin. I get the long-term case for Bitcoin. I get why you might want long-term exposure, but it still doesn't really have any fundamentals. And that's where sort of the third phase comes in, where it's like, well, no, it does have fundamentals. You just don't really know how to analyze it. And it's because you don't really understand maybe that there's an entirely new framework by which to analyze it. And that's where, on-chain analysis comes in.